From dangerous heat to a building heat wave. What? It's September. Hi, everybody. I'm Chief Meteorologist Chris Justice, keeping you posted along the ways. We've got a lot to talk about here as there's a lot going on. Folks, if you're new to this channel, please let me know where you're watching from right now. Like this video and subscribe to the channel for more weather updates. I give you an early look at what's going on. In this case, we could be talking about some dangerous heat and a dry stretch that could lead to a developing drought if we don't get something tropical. And of course, we don't want something tropical. That's not great either. So let's show you what's happening, what's cooking right now. Again, let me know where you're watching from right now. We'll keep you posted. You'll find some forecasts for different areas scrolling above my head right here with some highlights as to kind of the way the cookies crumble here. So 40s, yeah, it's comfortable, it's cool. We've been sitting pretty. We've got enough rain here lately, but things are about to change for the southeast in a big way. What's happening here is this front to the south is giving more storms and rain to parts of Florida. But you too are actually going to start to dry out once we get past midweek or so. That front settles further to the south, high pressure building in. See this dome of high pressure right here? Well, that's actually going to lead to drying conditions and warming temperatures here. And as we go deeper in the forecast here, even Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, looks like Florida, other than some daytime stuff, you're drying out, and I don't see any appreciable chance for rain for a while here. In fact, the days 1 through 7 precipitation total, I mean, here's 1 through 2, 3, 5, 7. 7 days of zero rain for the Carolinas, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi. Most of that's over Florida, and that's midweek. So you get your soaking in earlier for parts of Florida, Central Florida South especially. Panhandle's a bit drier. But this could lead to drought conditions in some areas of Tennessee. You're already under a level 2, level 3 drought in many locations. That's one of those things that we need to watch out here for. Is you've got a moderate drought here in parts of Tennessee. You get more dry conditions for parts of Arkansas. This could lead to spreading droughts in some locations. And in fact, the new outlook valid for September does show drought conditions developing here across the Ohio River Valley, and drought persisting, if not getting worse in some of these areas. So we need to watch that. In fact, the heat could also be something we need to watch. When you look at a building ridge of high pressure any time of the year, it spells warmer conditions because southerly winds are being enhanced or brought up. So the days 6 through 10 temperature outlooks warmer than normal, and you look at the precipitation, looks below normal. So we're getting dry, we're getting hot, and it looks to not just stop there. It looks like it continues. Days 8 through 14, this would be the 16th through the 22nd, look to be above normal. In fact, the Climate Prediction Center has highlighted an area here on the 16th through the 19th, a 3-day stretch here where there could be a moderate to slight risk of above normal temperatures and hazardous heat. Yeah, they have this heat product here that is triggered when you get abnormally hot conditions. In this case, it could be so hot that we have 90s. 90s could be returning in some locations there, which would not be great for tourism as you got leaves starting to peak up here into the Appalachian Mountains. Well, it's not going to feel like fall. September 20th through October 3rd outlook features a big warm-up. Looks like the heat is going to be the name of the game for a while here across the east. Let's shift gears and talk tropics here, folks, because it is quiet for now. We are approaching the peak of hurricane season, which would be September 10th. That would be Wednesday, wherever you're watching, whenever you're watching from, might be the peak. But this dome of high pressure would leave us vulnerable to activity. But dry air has been the name of the game. In fact, you can see this on our satellite. The relative humidity just stifled here from some of this dust coming off of Africa. So what that does is just makes the environment too dry to get anything going. That said, if you already had a storm going, this dust wouldn't do much. In fact, it's light, it's airy, it actually will circulate around a system and dry it up, not make it as strong, but it doesn't just collapse it. You get a system that's barely going yet, like we had last week with that system that was trying to get going, which likely would have been a big threat. Well, the dust got a hold of it before it could get going and stifled that development. Where do we go from here, though? Because there are some areas we need to watch, and the models keep hinting at the Gulf. Again, are you watching near the Gulf that could be vulnerable? Let me know in the comment section. Here we go. If we look at this GFS model, it's got a little critter here, 16th, 17th, 18th time frame. So we need to watch, does that blow into anything? But it looks to just be a weak wave subdued by dry air here in the main development region. But this area of the Caribbean is not so dry. And in fact, it's got a lot of heat content. So if there was a low pressure, albeit low, 1003, September 17th, toward the middle of next week, could we be dealing with something forming there? Well, GFS says yes. Goes sub 1,000, maybe getting to a hurricane here. Could have a hurricane the 18th in the Gulf going toward Louisiana. This would be a 990. Wouldn't be a very strong one, but it would be something to watch. Tropical storm, Cat 1, something like that. So the latest iteration of the GFS actually confirms that. Just a little bit further to the east in a 996 near Pensacola. So we got something to watch on the GFS. Here's the 18Z. Also has a strong hurricane here north of the Caribbean Islands. Very Aaron-like, but we've been there, done that, right? This thing would go up like this for the GFS and then curve away, kind of being a big old monster out here. So the models aren't just saying we're done with hurricane season. No, they're not. But they're saying in the next 7 days, there's probably no development. You have to go all the way out to next Monday, Tuesday on this GFS to get anything going there. How about the European? Well, the Europeans hinted at it a couple of different times as well. As we zap things back, as we go to that same time frame, here's the 15th. Notice a big confluence of storms here across the Caribbean. So could that be the start or the precipice for something more widespread to develop? I think so. It adds up with our analogies of different time frames of the year. But it also means that we need to stay dialed in on that. There's those waves coming off the coast of Africa. A couple of them need to be watched by the European, but would indicate that dry air indeed does try to stifle this one as well. So again, stuff to watch. You see it here, indicated by the low pressure. It's like it tries to get going and then kind of weakens down a bit more. But the European, not too keen on it today of anything tropical in the Caribbean or Gulf. It's keeping most of the action away from there. And in fact, if we average out the GFS models, new GFS shows a couple of different lows out here, 16th, 17th, got a couple in here. So there's a couple of 1,003s. Then you get in here to the 18th. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 28. So roughly a third, less than a third of the models are showing a little something here. 1 out of 3 models. So 30% chance, if you will, in the GFS of something forming right in here. The European, not so keen on that. If we map out its possibilities for the next week, it's got some areas here deeper into the Atlantic as we go toward the end of next week that would form as it moves off toward the west. But again, it'd be 7 days time frame before anything could get going on that. And by then, we'd have plenty of time to watch it. So simple takeaway is here, I don't see a threat for the next week. And that gets us into and through the peak of hurricane. Now, peak of hurricane season goes all the way through the end of September, early October, so we're not there, but the statistical peak is September 10th, so it gets us past the peak of the official peak of hurricane season, but we know that activity is really confined, the majority of activity is mainly confined to that second week of September through the third and fourth weeks of September. And October is honestly very active for the first week to 10 days, and then the fronts keep doing them in, and you start to get a little more wind shear that kills things. So, folks, if you're new to the channel, thank you for being here. I do appreciate you watching. At the end of every video, I do shout-outs from the previous time, and I hope you'll consider leaving me a comment right now where you're watching from and a question maybe you've had. Maybe you have something you've always wondered about weather. I love doing that segment, so tomorrow, whenever I do this video, I'll go back, I'll look at today's comments. So let me know where you're watching from and tune back in. Maybe I'll give you a shout out and answer your question you've had for weather. For me, I'm a meteorologist, been doing weather for 20 years on television. I love what I do, but also love the fact that technology has changed and we have this medium to be able to communicate, which kind of breaks that wall of TV, and I'm able to go a little bit deeper than I would on, say, the TV because, one, I have more time, but two, we can kind of break that wall and we can communicate outside this camera right here, right? You get to be able to ask me questions, which you necessarily can't do on TV. So fun. That's just what I've called it. So whether it's any kind of severe weather, hurricanes, weather patterns, or wintry weather, I'm on top of it for you, and I will keep you posted. So folks, stay tuned, and I'll see you soon.